All right, and back to having an STI or STD. I don't know if it's an
Whichever
infection or a
generation
disease.
you were born in.
Yeah, whatever. Nobody wants it. And another great way to start an episode, sexually charged. Today, we're going to be talking about all things sexual intercourse, starting with the birds and the bees. Jason, this is a conversation you're going to have in about 15 or 16 years' time. Have you prepared for it?
Hopefully 18 or 19 years' time, but yeah.
Well,
but things never work out. They never work out the way you want them to, do they?
You got to promote responsible sex education. Well, actually, what would be responsible sex education? Because you'd be promoting responsible sex, but responsible sex education. I don't know how you could do that responsibly. I think it's responsible in itself.
I mean, first of all, I want to preface this by saying I don't necessarily think the three of us are the ones who would be leading any kind of class of responsibility or sex ed. Yeah, that works too. Look, I'm just going to start this out by saying condoms. Condoms are your friend. They're your ally. They're your battle buddies.
That's
never
true.
Never go into battle without your buddy.
Okay, and there's the slogan. Not brought to you by Durex.
Unless you really trust someone.
Jesus Christ, dude, this is my point.
Unless you have really good judgment.
Yeah.
Unless you really know the person.
Oh, no, it's not if you know them. It's if you love them a lot, Yanko.
Yeah. Or...
or if your pull-out game is real strong.
High school sweethearts sort of a thing, each other's first time, and then just ride that train into the sunset.
Ride that train until it crashes into the station, and you probably don't end up happy and married together. You just have two kids.
Well,
isn't that like
Nitro's story, right? Like
I don't know.
His wife is his
high school sweetheart. High school sweetheart.
Yeah,
it does work out, but I'm just too cynical.
It's like a movie.
Yeah. Does he have cornfields though? Is it like fucking overhead high and they got a baseball field out there and stuff? Like how?
What is this? How do you get into Field of Dreams?
I don't know that or Superman.
That's what I think about when I think about the American dream. Someone's growing corn somewhere. You know,
that's your American dream, growing corn.
It's just a dude in a cornfield.
Well, the American dream's dead already, boys. I don't want to bring up liquid too soon, but
oh, dude, the American everything is dead, isn't it? it's all gone.
Speaking of somewhere that wasn't America, Yanko, you had a bit of a vacate, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, but I mean, it wasn't in the U.S.
No, well, exactly. It was a different location.
Bro, it was actually wild. Like when I got back on Tuesday. My bag was missing. Wednesday was my girlfriend.
This Tuesday?
No, from Dallas, so 2 weeks ago.
Oh, shit, okay. I was like, well, today's only Wednesday. This has all happened very soon.
Yeah, and so Wednesday was my girlfriend's birthday. Then on Friday, I had a bachelor's party because I'm the best man, so I had to organize everything and all that stuff. And then Saturday, like... noon, I was flying out for vacation, so it was jet lag and a busy couple of days, and then I really needed that vacation, just chilling, really not doing anything crazy, some nice food, nice restaurants. I was in Greece. I was in Glyfada. It's like
you're
40
like a
minutes
throw from me.
Yeah, it's like 40 minutes away from Athens, so it was great actually. I really liked it there. So I think it's gonna become a yearly thing for me, to be honest, because it's easy from Belgrade. Just a 1 hour, like 15-minute flight, and then it's to that area it's like 25 minutes from the airport. So it's really convenient. Also, if you wanna go to Athens, it's like a 30-minute drive. So you get a little bit of everything. So yeah, I had a lot of fun. I think I'm gonna squeeze one more in. During the break, maybe Spain or something like that for another 7 or 8 days.
There's only 22 days.
Yeah, when the fuck are you gonna do that?
Yeah, it's
but I don't do blast, guys. So like I have those like extra 2 weeks.
That
is true. Because it'd only be 3 weeks in that sense until they go back. It's so crazy, man. Like,
it's way too short. Like
it feels mega quick, doesn't it?
It's way too short. Luckily. For the teams, well, I guess it depends on the teams, right? So the Blast partner teams, I know that a lot of them are just going to use the tournament as boot camp because...
Especially their new roster.
Because you're there for 2 weeks, man, and you have like so many days off and so many games that aren't really... There's not really a lot at stake. So you're like, well, if we do a boot camp before this, and then we just have there's enough time there just to use it as a boot camp, right? You just sort of apply yourself a little bit more mentally. You get into that mode, and that's fine, because if you look at it as well, if you were going to do a boot camp, you're going to do a boot camp before Blast, and you're 2 weeks at Blast and 2 weeks in Cologne. I mean, that's already at the very start of the season without having too much time off. It's pretty strenuous start.
Pretty intense.
It's cool though.
Is strenuous also cool. A good word?
It's a fun lens to look at it through, right? Like I think, you can look at the downsides of a lot of this, and I agree. I think the break just does kind of feel like it's very quick. I don't know whether it is or it isn't. It just feels quick. But like if we look at it through that lens, right? The Counter-Strike that's going to be played through that lens of, okay, they're playing to get into shape as quickly as possible. So they'll be working things out. They'll be trying things. Communication won't be perfect. People's aim will be a little bit off. Maybe the games will be a little bit sloppy around the edges there. But you're looking for like who can piece things together the quickest. You can look for people's individual form, like a little bit like oh, who's come out of the break looking hot, right? Who's actually hitting some shots. So there's different things to look at then, who's just go like the best team, right?
Also, with how crazy all the roster changes are, it's just going to be like your first glimpse is like, all right, who's like the first look at all these new rosters, some of which are going to be vastly different, is going to be absolutely mental to watch. Like even just evolve over the 2 weeks of Blast into the 2 weeks of Cologne. Like it's going to be crazy to see which teams like really figure out how to come together fast.
And I think probably some of those teams that are Blast partnered and will make significant roster changes, you might see them do at least a 5-day boot camp, I don't know, maybe even a week, if you really want to, just so you set the base, right? And then you already have official practice, so to speak, where you can see, okay, did we set the roles correctly, or maybe positions, spots, more so, some of the...
You got a long ramp time to the major too.
Yeah, I mean, for the major, yeah.
But that's the thing. You get to experiment. You get to just try some things out, which I think is why we're seeing so many odd announcements with all these roster changes that's happening, because it's not... This is the thing as well. This isn't even downtime with all the conversations that are going on with these players and their agents and their management and their teams and prospects of teams, and having interviews with in-game leaders and coaches on the other side and seeing what works for everybody. Like, think about all that shit that's going on now during the break as well for some of these teams. And then think about it if you're a player in one of the teams who maybe you're disposable and they're looking like getting rid of you. And how do you start making moves? Like, do you even know you're about to get cut? Like, it's such a weird time. It's the opposite of relaxing. It's like, fuck, man. This is where this is your entire next season in Counter-Strike. So if things are to be believed, like a Heroic, a FaZe, a G2, they can take the break a little bit more chill, right? Because those teams are apparently not having roster changes.
Yeah, I think also I did get some sort of information, hopeful information where, and the reason why all this is bullshit again is because the majors are in the middle of the season, so then you have tournaments who always have that asterisk after them, but from 2025. Supposedly, the majors will be slotted as the last event of the season. So we can finally get that out of the way. Obviously, the PGL major next year is already scheduled. It's pretty early, right? And I think probably the second one is going to be in a similar sense, middle of the season. But I think from 2025, the dates are moved, so it's at the end. Of the season.
Feels so long away, doesn't it?
That's a Talking Counter exclusive right there.
Yeah, but I think also that it's incredibly important, and it will do so much good for the scene, the scheduling, the everything, because we can finally stop, like in Dallas and in Rio and at Blast finals, to talk about it. Have fucking players too, man. Like,
this team is dead.
We're burnt out. Oh yeah, well, who knows how the team will look like after the break? Or yeah, I mean, we won the major. It's hard to motivate yourself for this tournament after you won the major, and so on and so on, which are all valid things to say. Players are not robots. Different tournaments have different level of importance, prestige, and whatnot, right? So it also sucks for some of the players and performances, right? Like you look at I don't know, Dexter in some of his games in Dallas, and you were like, ooh, he's actually like pretty good, but but probably he just already knows he's getting cut and he's playing, with no pressure and is just having better games. So also, if you're a team who wants to pick up some of these players that are, you're not getting real sort of feedback, right? Like in terms of how they're playing and whatnot. So I think
it's also a bit
in just so
messier.
many things, it's going to be better in so many things.
With CS2, like it's making things messier right now with all the changes in the moment that we're seeing too, right? Like there's all of this. Like, it's a perfect mixing pot for uncertainty right now, which is cool because it's gonna be interesting to see what comes out on top and who's made the right calls and which type of people have made the right plays and who's actually made a valid pickup. Like I don't know, let's use like Boros as an example, right? In Monty, he was great. But now we get to see him on Falcons, and if they're competing in more tournaments, which is one of those ifs, right? If they're in the game as 8th thing, but getting him in like a pro league or that type of stuff, when you get to see more of them, then you ask the question: can these players continue to produce?
Did you know Falcons had that much bank?
But yeah, aren't they owned by Saudi Arabia?
They are? I didn't know that.
I think so.
Oh, okay. Then it's fine. Then we know.
Well, I'm pretty sure. Like 95% sure. It's one of those things, quick to fact check. But yeah.
Because I know he was
Saudi Arabian professional esports organization.
His price tag was pretty high.
For Bob Ross?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Some of these, there's a lot of players, I guess, who are looking for salary.
Is this official now that they've actually been signed? I just saw the rumor.
Yeah, Bob Ross is official now, I'm pretty
Longs,
sure.
MHL, Boros, MBK,
Perfect.
and Body. That's the team.
It's actually a pretty nice team.
It's not bad. Yeah.
I like the mix. Like what I like about this team is the mix of experience and young, new blood, right?
Yeah.
I think we've seen maybe with some teams when they have too many young players, they're struggling for leadership and some guidance, and in high pressure situations they tend to falter. Well, we've also seen teams full of experienced players just not have enough firepower to really do enough damage. So I think having the right mix is key. I think Sprout is a team, like in Katowice, that's an example of a team that has a lot of talent and good firepower, but just not enough leadership. And I mean, I think Refresh led the team well, but not enough experience for the rest of the guys to really buy into it and understand which things are important. Now you come into a team with Body and especially MBK, an all-striker, as a coach who's he's 44 now. So you have
He's been doing it for a while, Mr.
You have a lot of mature
All-Striker.
human beings who are going to be like, listen, this is the way we practice, this is the way you behave in practice, and this needs to happen from day one. And if you can't
Makes
do that,
it easier
you'll
to
be on
keep
the
people
bench.
accountable.
Yeah, exactly, right? And also makes just practice way more productive.
Yeah, if you can keep them in check, and I think that's one of the fun things that these people will have a time doing. Like Jason, do you have to keep the little one in check yet, Matt, or are we still at the stage where it can't do anything? It can't do anything. It's so new.
She just rolled over from her back to her stomach for the first time yesterday.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that was a big step.
Another topic.
That is a big achievement, isn't it? Like that enables something, doesn't it? Like it means now that like you're not worried about them.
It kind of
suffocating face down.
That part's like nice that they can do that. I don't think she can really like do it on like command quite yet. She just kind of eventually like works her way into doing it. But I think it's more it's like the step you get to before they start reaching out and grabbing shit, which is when shit really hits the fan. When they can pick up things on the countertop, when you're holding onto them and knock
more of a
things
menace.
over. Yeah, you have to like really be careful while you're laying around. Like I had my brother over the other day, and I had like I'd been doing some work around the house, so I had like an X-Acto knife and like some scissors on the countertop, and he's like, "Yep, not much longer till you can't be leaving those out lying around." And I was like, good point, sharp edges and all that jazz.
No, you got to worry about that shit.
Yeah,
That's aggressive, man. I guess.
Yeah, I know
yeah.
it's asking a lot. I feel for me to be responsible about leaving dangerous objects everywhere.
Yeah, because you're an adult, you don't have to worry about those objects. You ain't no fool. Are you
And
using?
most of my life, I've lived around dangerous. You know, they've just been there.
Well, maybe that's
Like I
maybe
said,
bring them
as
into
if
the
you
danger.
were a commando, you know, and been through 3 Iraq
You
or
like that?
Afghanistan tours. You know, I'm used to
I was-
being around dangerous
yeah.
objects all the time.
I am a
Lives in
dangerous
suburb
object.
in Grand Rapids, Michigan, of course.
Look,
Yeah,
I'm trying to big myself up to the
Got some
audience, you
bears
know.
and shit, man.
Yeah, and I'm here to tear you down, Jason.
Jason, are you using an owlet? The baby monitor. Well, like, what's your baby monitor situation?
Oh, we have 2 baby monitors. We got one baby monitor for the nursery that has the crib, which we only use for naps at the moment.
Okay.
We're going to start sleep training this weekend. And then we have a baby monitor for the bassinet in the bedroom. So wherever she's sleeping, there's eyes on her.
You
Eyes
rocking
on-
that ankle bracelet? Are you doing that jazz?
Not yet, but we have something with the one in. Dude, this shit's crazy. This is how you know, like, babies is just like babies
baby
are an
tech is
industry like
huge.
any
I was-
other. It's
I was learning
mental.
about this when I went home for Christmas, and I met my sister's kid, right, which is like I don't know, 9 months old or some shit. So
Yeah.
I was learning about all this type of stuff.
Yeah, the baby monitor that we have above the crib can detect when if she stops breathing.
Yeah, man, it's fucking wild. Bro.
Like it tracks temperature, like when it was last. Like I get a notification, like, oh, your baby was last attended like 25 minutes ago, and I was like, okay, this is a bit crazy. And then it can actually just like give you a notification of, oh, your baby's no longer breathing. And I'm like, well, that's lovely.
Yeah, but at least you can try and do something about it.
No,
You
but
know?
here's the problem with it, Chad. Like I don't trust the tech, right?
Oh
Like,
shit! Is the tech
don't-
known to be faulty? Have you looked into?
I
the
have
tech?
no idea. So you have to like wrap like a sensor around the child first and foremost to
Yes,
like get it.
that's the anklet.
Yeah, but it's like around the chest, right? To like do the lungs compression in and out.
This
But
is the thing I saw.
okay, yeah, I can. Yeah, I guess we'd call that an anklet. Oh yeah, sure. In a way, that seems larger. Oh no, that is actual anklet. No, this is like a straight up like strap that you'd put, almost like a weightlifter like strap that they'd put on.
Okay.
But anyways, I don't trust it. Like I don't trust the world where I'm out like out to dinner with my wife and I get a notification that says
Well, you're
your
not
baby has
leaving
stopped
your
breathing.
fucking. You're not leaving your fucking 2-month-old.
No,
or 3-month-old
my
baby.
parents,
doesn't
my
listen
parents,
to
like
these
we have a babysitter at home.
I don't
But,
want to
like,
leave my
imagine-
I trust this machine while I'm getting wasted.
No,
in a
but then like
steakhouse.
imagine like just sitting out there and I'd be like, and, like you come home and it's like I feel like that's a faulty notification. Like that's got it like 8 out of 10 times. That's got to be
Why?
faulty
Yeah.
notifications.
Yeah, maybe. I think it's fucking hell. The alternative.
I don't-
What I see with Jason and Jane just out at this like 5-star restaurant. Jason's in like a fucking tux. Jane's dressed to the nines. They're having some champers, looking at this fucking baby monitor on a fucking Tuesday night or something.
No, but I know Jason. Like he would be so anxious, right? He couldn't relax for 1 second. He would just be like looking at the monitor. Jane would be like, "Come on, honey, have some champagne." Or Jane wouldn't have a care in the world, right? Like, and then Jason is like anxious because you're not actually leaving your baby alone with something ankle to, or you're leaving with a babysitter.
You have that completely backwards, right? In what universe is Jane trying to get me to have a drink of alcohol?
Because
like,
she's
in
with
what
the baby
universe?
the whole time. Like she's tired. She wants to have a night out, right? And you're traveling the world, fucking around with your boys. Like that's your night to worry. That's for you to see how she feels all the time.
Oh,
right,
fucking
maybe
hell,
there's
boys.
some truth there.
I have to, this is literally, Mira has just, look, I'm sorry, we're going to dip in and out of this stuff because this is kind of my life at the moment, is just this fever dream of going to sleep, waking up, playing some Face It,
Bro,
seeing
I saw
roster
this.
league. So when I saw this, I didn't believe the truth, right?
I saw the one earlier today that said that the other guy, JL.
JL, yeah. That was like
Yeah, but this
20
is-
minutes ago.
This is Mira posting this shit, right?
Okay, can we just say it out loud for the listeners?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I didn't know if Chad
it's-
was trying to keep like an announcement. Like, I didn't know if he was trying to build suspense.
No, it says, I'll just read the tweet. It says, according to sources, NaVi are locked in talks with Gamer Legion over the transfer of IMA. My report in collaboration with Nell, who also revealed that NaVi have begun negotiations for Alexi B. So
that would be, in theory, if all the rumors are true, because there's the rumors of Electronic and Perfecto leaving, it would be Alexi, Ime, JL, Simple, and Bit.
yes.
Wow. I don't know what to think about that.
I don't know.
I don't know what to think about it either.
Like Alexi, he's sort of that's the problem with like Alexi. It's like his circumstances haven't been ideal. You could even say they were far from ideal, right? And I don't know where to put him anymore, right? I don't know how to evaluate him, right?
Well, let's track the history here,
Like
right?
I felt
Ents?
well, yeah, it ends with the Finnish team, right?
Yeah.
I think they were one of the teams that got boosted by the AUG and AUG meta.
For sure.
Because when that stopped, their results were nowhere close to, what they had during that time. So I'm basically saying I don't think their players were that good, but those guns being more viable made up for that skill gap, so they had better results, than they would have had otherwise. After that, he goes to OG, right? I mean, again, how do you regard those rosters at the time? What was it? Issa, Mantu, MBK.
I didn't think he had phenomenal
Valde,
pieces
right?
by any means.
So it's like,
No.
at the time, you're thinking, well, this is not a terrible team. They're not world beaters, but they could do some damage. They never won even any smaller tournament, right? But you're like, okay, you could see sometimes they're doing some things well. Then it was G2 after that, right? From OG. Yeah, it was almost a swap. And then they're doing well at the beginning. They had that close grand final against FaZe in Katowice. Then they have the whole COVID thing at Pro League where they can't play with him. They're playing with a sub. They don't qualify for playoffs. And because of that, they have like a month without officials, which they were saying like sort of month and a half even. So it's all these weird things happening. And I think, some of the rest of the team was impatient. And I think if they had the approach, like mentally, like they did with Hooksy and that whole thing after failing to qualify for the Rio Major, like if they had that sort of a vibe in the team when Alexi was there, I think they would have been more successful. I think that roster potentially could have even worked, maybe if you only swapped out Jax. I don't know, right? So then after that, he goes to NIP, and you're like, I remember, dude, this is so funny. Like at the start of the year, and he's like, I just want our roster to be stable. And then 2 days later, like Hampus decides to, take a break, and they have to play with a standing end. So he lacks stability in NIP, right? And I think we all know how difficult it is to get good or have any sort of consistency when you're changing players all the time. And especially on the in-game leader and the coach, it's just mentally so draining, right? Because you have to go over the same things like over and over again with the new guy and have patience for him to, get used to it. So, and it's just a shitty situation.
I got a question though, right? Because we talk about this. We're talking about how he got to where this position now, and this is all being discussed because he might be getting signed to NaVi. But when you think about that, what have we learned over that time, right? What's the takeaways? Do you think that Alexi B hasn't had a good opportunity to pull anything off? Do you think that he's a good in-game leader and is someone who fits the bill here? And it's like, okay, Alexi, he's a good. We've seen him across all these teams. He does a serviceable job. If he had better pieces and stability, then the team could win, right? Because that's essentially how you felt about G2, right?
Yeah, I think he needs to be less rigid in the structure that he's building, right? I think his system needs to have maybe a little bit more space for players to do their own thing, especially in the mid to late round, kinda. Outside of that, I think it looks okay, right? I also don't think I think he's a better player individually than, your Hooksy, your Carrigan, and some of those guys, right? I think he could do a little bit more on that level. So if you add the fact that he would have Blade as a coach, and Blade also has a lot of authority, and he would have to listen to him, and he would have to understand that coming into the team, I could see a world in which it could work, right? But it's just, especially going to NaVi, it's such a weird mix, no?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think for me, coming into this podcast today, in my head, I was like, all right, I'm going to ask the guys like, what's like some of the craziest like roster moves that they've heard rumored or like seen, like what's the craziest one in their head? And I think for me, Alexi to NaVi was up there as one of the more wild ones.
Some of the shit that we were hearing though was wild. Like
yeah, well, I heard
like
electronic going to
twists.
EG, like
Yeah.
that. Like what? Why?
Why would he do that? But
I know.
But the question
Well, unless
here
he's getting
is
a
why is
freaking bag.
why is NaVi willing to part ways with electronic? Maybe it's the whole Russian thing in the
Well,
end.
Striker said last night that apparently it's not NaVi who want to let him go.
Yeah, it could be electronic wanting out.
So and
But
that,
I mean-
but that makes even less sense to me. And I don't know how we get to the
Well,
bottom of that.
It would have.
I don't know, man. That team has been in a spiral now.
Oh, you
for a
feel
long
like
time.
maybe just doesn't want to actually be there anymore? Like he feels that the team, that could be it. Because he's a great player. He could go somewhere else.
You also have to
Yeah.
understand NaVi is putting some, like, I don't want to say limitations, but conditions, right, on him and Perfecto staying in the NaVi organization, right? So maybe he's had enough of that. Like he has a wife and a kid. Maybe that has become too much for him to juggle. His professional responsibilities, also being the in-game leader, right? Like your workload is bigger. You had to relocate your family and whatnot. Maybe he's just like, hey, I can't do this anymore. Like, like my family can't handle this anymore. And even though I would like to stay in this organization, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But I mean, it's all speculation, so maybe we shouldn't dabble in it.
No, but it could be a lot of things, right? But I think what is interesting is the places that he could go. Like the EG one is wild. Like it's crazy.
That's whack as
That
fuck.
roster that I heard was like Elige, Electronic, Automatic, Zorti.
Nealon.
Or
Isn't it?
was it? Where was Perfecto? What's the rumor about Perfecto?
Well, there was
No,
a
it's-
rumor about Perfecto and Electronic to Cloud9.
Yep,
Yeah,
there's
that was the one where they were
I heard
together.
electronic and I can't remember if I heard Perfecto to EG as well. But the EG one's weird because they've already picked up like they already have like 4 players or something like that they've picked up. Like if they get Elige, then you have like a team of 4. So if you get electronic and Perfecto, all of a sudden you're sitting at 6 and someone gets bumped out, and I don't know who it would be. I guess it'd probably be like Nealon. I don't know. I don't even know. It's all crazy. It's all weird.
I mean, it's also like how are these teams, how are these orgs putting these teams together? Like surely by now we've learned, you can't just, even if the players like roles make sense, right? You can't just put them all together and like here you go, now you're playing together.
I
Right.
think this is a big gamble period, though, Yanko, because of like the CS2 situation. I think right
Fair
now
enough.
it's like hugely in recent history, who played well? Okay, do we think like if we like nurture them now or we buy them up now, that might transfer across? Because man, who the fuck knows what's going to happen
Also,
with CS2?
I think too, it'd be really interesting to hear how these talks are actually going, because I know from what I've heard, like a lot of the negotiations that players are having is that they don't want to commit long term to a team or an org.
Really?
Because CS2 is coming out, because they're like, we don't know what we don't know how the game is going to change things. We don't know if this team is still going to be good when CS2 comes out. So I know there's like some negotiations where the players,
But we
or
still
the
want tens of
agents
thousands
are-
of dollars, please. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, look, when I say players, I more mean like the agents representing them, right?
Yeah.
But like there is like a hardball game being played where because there's so much uncertainty, like it's that idea of a long-term deal is not as attractive to the player side, which obviously the orgs are just like, I would imagine they're just like, well, I don't really care about your concerns if I'm paying the money. So I'd be very curious at
Take
like
a pay
how these
cut if you
deals.
want to pay for $5,000. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
but like I also yeah, exactly. But I also get it from the player perspective. Like I wouldn't be signing like a 4-year contract going into like CS2, right? So I
Unless
would really
you're
wonder how. Yeah, unless you're James. But I'd be really curious about how these contracts are structured. But I want to go back to NaVi, the NaVi and Alexi thing for just a second, because one thing about him that he still hasn't answered as a question, because when you were mentioning Yanko, like you don't know where to put him. I like Alexi as an in-game leader, but one thing I don't think I've ever seen him really do well is take a team from like its formation to then becoming an effective team. Like, right? Like he built the OG team, or he was part of that from the get-go, a roster coming together. It went nowhere, didn't have great pieces. G2 as well kind of came in with the new offer within Monacy, wasn't able to bring that up. He's got a brand new lineup now as well in NaVi. If this all goes through, like, I don't know if I necessarily have faith in him as an in-game leader.
Forget about Blade as well, though. How does that relationship play out?
Yeah.
I think Blade is an incredible coach. So
I think Blade is excellent and good, but is that enough?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, dude, he could make Boomich. You know, he could make a team work with Boomich. I think he can surely make one work with Alexi too.
Speaking of Boomich, man, Boomich is cute as fuck.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, but I want to say though, I don't know. I kind of like Alexi too. From talking to him, you know, at different tournaments, like he's a smart guy. Like he understands, you know, some of the losses, what happened, some of the wins, what happened, and so on. He carries himself good, I feel like, as well. But, you know, if I'm like Alexi's, you know, defendant in what you said, I would say, yeah, but that was Monacy's first tier 1 experience, for example. So he got him when he was at his most raw, right? Like when he's probably the emotions were all over the place and everything. All that sort of a jazz. You also had, you know, Jax in there who probably you could have, you know, used someone else a little bit more because of the communication thing and whatnot. You know, and I feel like just the team wasn't patient enough with him. I felt like if their attitude was better within the team and they gave it some more time, I think they could have had probably the same amount of success that they had with the Hooksy JKS roster. Or if you just add JKS during the break, you keep Alexi, and you make that mental change. You're telling me that team can't like play the same? Well, obviously, and a little bit of a change in the, as I said, like making the style less rigid. But maybe that's wanting too much to change, you know, or expecting too much to change.
Yeah, one step at a time.
But what about the rest of the guys? JL and Ima?
It's all wild.
It's a big roll of the dice on players who showed good things at the major, but don't have like a large resume or pedigree of those kinds of performances.
They both seem like they both seem like chill people. Like JL's quite a hype guy. Ima seemed pretty calm, pretty relaxed, pretty measured. So
yeah.
Like when I think about the personalities, okay, so they seem like they. Well, that's the thing. You're going to play in a team with Simple. You're going to have to make sure you can fucking contain it because there is going to be a little bit of argy-barge. In terms of performing again, though, that's what I'm talking about with the gamble. That's the only thing I can really scratch this up to because I think to see the performance is great. To replicate the performance is the next thing. And if you're happy to go with what you've seen, if that's enough to get you to make these type of moves and take that chance, then apparently that's enough. And if things don't work when CS2 comes out, I think that you're in a position to try and change things up again, right? But I think the bigger point that we're not talking about here is the move away from like the Russian speaking. Right? We know that NaVi obviously don't want to sign Russian players, but like not even Ukrainian. They didn't even look at like any of the bait players or anything like that. Or maybe they did, but maybe they were too expensive and it would be worth buying like people from international teams more than it would be like buying like an Owner or a Wrinkle or an Amster or whatever from a team like Bait. But it is if NaVi and Liquid both move away, I think most of the teams in the top 10 are all international.
Yeah, well, it's got to be now. I think this is. I mean, we've seen it coming. It was only a matter of time before one of these shakeups just introduced.
But there was always
international
mainstays.
rosters.
You know what I meant? You know, like when
Denmark
when
is the only one now.
went.
Denmark's the only one now.
And
because they have so many players.
Yeah, they do have like 3 teams worth of like players, which is mental to think about.
And I guess VP, yeah. I mean
Brazil.
VP, Brazil.
Yeah, but they're not in the top.
But even Brazil, I think.
Into account. I mean, someone like Bit, dang, his English is not great, man. I mean, Simple, sure, but he never had to really. Well,
in Liquid,
if you go back to Team Liquid, I mean, but yeah,
it was really his English was really rough back then. If you guys
much
remember
better
it,
now.
Yeah, it's much better now.
And also the way Russian-speaking teams communicate and the way they call out things with the numbers, it's like really specific, you know, and they're used to that. So you either have to get the other guys to get used to that way of saying, but also numbers don't obviously sound the same. You don't, it's different words in Russian and in English, so it might also sound silly for some of the numbers you have to say. So I don't know. To be honest, like, I'm not really loving this for NaVi. The fact that they're going international, similar to Vitality, I think they're going to really underestimate the communication,
the growing pains,
right? But maybe that's the plan. Maybe the plan is like use these first 9 months, focus only on that. We don't have to win shit. Let's just get our like comms in place, like, see if this can actually even work, and then so that we are in contending status for the next major, which is what, 9-10 months away. It's a pretty long time.
I mean, you'd hope these teams are focused on the long game, right? That's what.
But when you look at the players themselves, you have two passive guys in Alexi and Bit, sort of anchorish players that you can, Bit. That's how he started out in NaVi, and then you have Ima, who's aggressive, and JL somewhere in between, and obviously Simple with the aggressive wall, but. I don't know.
Do whatever he wants.
The problem is Alexi is like in some of the teams he's leading from the lurk, right? In other ones he was doing it from the group. I think he prefers the lurk, but I don't know if he can get that in this NaVi team.
I feel like I just looking at this. I mean, thinking about different conversations and different interviews and different times I've seen them in interviews talk about the game. I cannot see a world where there's not a clash between Alexi and Simple at some point. Like that.
I think there'll be lots of clashes.
There's like, that's going to be such an obstacle, I think, to get over. Is like the difference of philosophy of Alexi, who likes to be a little bit more structured, to Simple, who's way more free-flowing and way more intuitive, and like and also you're never gonna rein Simple in. Like you almost have to keep him unleashed.
What does this mean for Simple's future though, Rab? Because he is like the franchise NaVi player. But let's just live in a fucking strange world for a second.
Sure.
Let's say, I don't know. Let's say that G2 wanted to sign Simple. I know Monasty's good. I'm not. This is but now Simple's in a position, if the team's gone international, and his team, if with the roster we're talking about on paper, wouldn't be considered better than G2, right?
Yeah.
So
on
like,
paper,
you know what I mean? Like, what if this is a full hypothetical? But would there be anything that would entice Simple to then leave NaVi and maybe join like what if he went to FaZe? Obviously
FaZe is a much better example than G2.
Yeah, I was just throwing something out there, but I just saw the G2 clip, so I was on the brain.
No, only I'm saying that only because Monesi has already shown a lot for his young age, and he is extremely young. So you've got a guy for many years to come, right? Simple, I think, still in his prime years, still can play incredibly well. I think.
I actually, in this hypothetical, I think G2 makes more sense than FaZe in a way.
How come?
If we're gonna go down the crazy weird world that Chad wants to live in for a moment, like if you're G2 and you have players like Nico that have been around, I'm not calling them old by any means, but 26, Simple's 25, you have a higher age, and if you're NaVi and you're going for all these young players, you're bringing in JL, you're bringing in Ema, who are 22, 23. There's a world where I feel like it makes sense to say, let's go for a straight swap, Simple for Modesty. Give us the young opera. We're gearing up for the future. Simple wants to win trophies now. He's used to being at the top. Nico wants to win trophies. He's used to being at the top. He doesn't have a major. I feel like there's a world where those like timelines line up for each team.
Actually, I mean, yeah, if you look at it that way, you could make that case. The question is, I'm thinking if I'm the orgs, am I digging that?
Yeah, exactly.
I think Simple obviously has a bigger brand, and at this point, right, and he's the GOAT. On the other side, you have a kid who is probably going to be the next GOAT.
The next Simple, yeah.
in that position.
And if you're NaVi, you're like, oh, we sold him for $600K. Now we can just straight swap him back. Game on.
Yeah. One problem is he's Russian though. So.
Why did Chad's broken ass brain come up with some weird idea that turned out to be decent?
Yeah. I don't know. Like I just throw stuff out there. So maybe something.
No, I think it actually is interesting if you look at it from that way, because it feels like because when you think about Simple in this team, it's the same kind of idea that I've seen other teams have, where you have like, it's like the same kind of concept with Astralis, where you have half the player who's like, half the people who have like pedigrees and championship categories and want to win now, and the other half of the team is like is a project for the future. So like in some ways, like the goals don't really align.
Well,
which is what I feel like Simple would be in this roster.
The only difference is you could argue that m0NESY is win ready now at this point.
True.
You know.
Yeah.
So I mean,
he's not as good as Simple.
It's an interesting sort of brainstorm, like shooting the shit theory. But I think I would want to say it would make more sense for FaZe.
Hold up, gentlemen. Hold up. Can you hear this?
Yeah.
Rushley, you're on the podcast.
Oh, we got him.
All right, how you doing?
Hey, Rushley.
Hey, Rushley.
They're saying hello.
When are you going to be our producer, Rushley?
You're not going to be able to hear them, Rush, but there's questions about you being our producer again. I wasn't calling you about that. I did want to know how the weather was currently in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, mate, I'm in the middle of a Peak District right now. There's a duck looking at me.
There's a
Sorry,
duck.
could you repeat that again?
There's a duck looking at him.
We didn't quite get all of that.
I said I'm out of Peak District right now. I'm in the middle of nowhere. There's a duck looking at me.
What district?
Peak District, innit?
Okay. Well,
ask him about Simple for m0NESY trade.
How would you feel if Simple joined G2 and m0NESY joined NaVi?
m0NESY joined NaVi.
Yeah, it's a swap for Simple.
Don't know if I like that, mate, to be honest. I'm not a massive fan.
What's holding you up
Is it
here?
NaVi or chipping it? I read some things on the internet. I don't know anything, but I heard NaVi's chipping and changing as well.
Okay.
So what's m0NESY joining into?
Well, he's joining into a team of young, talented, hungry players who are probably going to be primed to win trophies in the next, 12 months.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it working out. I mean, don't know. I mean, Simple to G2 though. I mean, Simple Nico and old Juzzy baby, Juzzy baby.
He even fucking talks like you now. God bless.
Rush, before we let you go,
It's beautiful out here, mate. You wouldn't believe what I've been seeing. I'm seeing all sorts of stuff. I got rained on today, fully. Like I was out walking. We were up on the top of some mountains, and I got fully rained on. But other than that, it's absolutely beautiful out here, man. I recommend it. I've got an ice cream as well.
What are you recommending?
I come down to the Peak District, mate.
Oh, okay, but it can be wet. All right, and what type of ice cream do you have?
It's a 99 flake, if you know what that is.
I do know a 99 flake. You've gone for a cone?
Yeah, a cone. It's one of the shit cones, honestly. It's not like a really good cone.
You haven't gone a waffle cone.
The soft serve is good.
Yep.
No, it's not. I don't know. It's one of them classic trash cones, But I mean, I don't want to say it too loud because the person who gave it me is not that far away, so I can't talk too loud about how shit it is.
What's a Mr. Whippy's flake cone worth these days, Rush? How much did that set you back?
Not 99p. Probably 99 quid, I'll tell you that now. Not 99p at all. I think it cost us £3 something. Unbelievable.
All right, Rush. When can the people expect to see you back on the servers, mate?
I'll be back on Saturday.
All right. Well, we look forward to hearing from you, Rushy. Thank you for your wise words. Anything you want to say to Yanko and Jason before we leave?
Is that Yanko and Jason? To ask them how they are.
We're good. We're great, Rush. Yeah.
Great, that. I'm glad to hear.
Don't have enough ice cream.
I've got to drive home, mate. It's a long drive. It's about 20 minutes. So I'm going to be in the car for a long time.
All right.
Keep your hands at 10 and 2. Eyes on the road.
Mate.
Make sure you put your seatbelt on.
Yeah, I'll send you a picture, mate.
Bye, Rush. All right. Sorry. It was just a special call-in. I think we should do more call-ins.
Yeah, I think that should be the people.
Yeah, recurring theme of the podcast. We just call someone in. Just call Henry in.
What if we just called like random people from like high school that we haven't talked to in like 6 years and just got them on a podcast?
I still have my old SIM, so I have so many of those old numbers, but I don't know what I would talk to them about.
I think I found out.
No,
I was
you
a
just
dad.
be like, you'd be like, I was gonna say you just ask them about Counter-Strike, see what they say. They'll probably say absolutely nothing of value at all.
Yeah, well, if they know what's going on, then then we've probably been in contact with them, Jason. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. You know, there's people. There's people. They're in the peripheries, but you know they're there. You can reach out and touch them.
All right,
not
can
too far away.
Can we talk about something close to my heart now that we've kind of talked around NaVi for a little bit of time?
Does it start with an L?
It does start with an L.
Oh, here we go.
Do you guys want to tackle this? You want to save it for later?
I would like to, but I want to let you know that I am going to be playing the card of Devil's Advocate here.
Oh, okay. I like that.
So I would like you to present the way you feel, and I'm happy to have this discussion with you today.
Okay. Well, my feelings are a bit conflicted, complicated. I'm excited for you to play Devil's Advocate because I have to work through them a little bit, I feel.
Okay.
But you know, from one perspective, I do kind of like the change, like the rumor in terms of Patsy coming in terms of I don't know much about Rainwaker, but everyone I've spoken to in Europe that knows, I've never seen him play. Everyone speaks highly of him. I don't know how good he is, or I know it's a project, so it might not go well, but I think it's a very cool idea. So from the perspective of the actual Counter-Strike and the actual team being put together, Rainwaker and Patsy in, Elige out, I'm into it. I like it. I'm not a huge fan of Yakinder as an in-game leader, but Daps has spoken very highly of him when I talked to him in Dallas about the situation. I tried to convince him not to keep Yakinder as an in-game leader, and he was pretty adamant that he had faith that Yakinder could do it. And Daps is probably one of the better talent, probably the best talent scout we've had in North America, like ever, in terms of bringing up young players and discovering young talent. So I'm gonna ride on his road for a little bit on that decision. But my obvious discomfort with this move is it's kind of like the bell ringing out that the North American scene is officially dead.
It's all of Counter-Strike is international now. I know it feels a little bit more personal because you're from North America, but it's just the majority of the teams are just international, and most of those nations exist in Europe.
Correct, but we're going to see. I mean,
yes, Europe has more nations than North America. I think.
I get what you're saying here, but also it's like the North American scene doesn't exist to a point where it is going to be feeding into the international Counter-Strike scene basically at all moving forward. We have Twist, we have NaV.
It'll have to be someone who's exceptional, won't it? It'll have to be a JKS
but that's the point. Is we don't have the scene in North America itself to find that exception in a player.
Well, what happens is, Jason, you have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, winning local qualifiers, and then going over and slowly chipping away and performing well until one shining light of the rough of 5, maybe 6 with a coach, shows a glimmer, a little glimpse, a sparkle in the eye. And then maybe that player gets a chance, and then they're good. Otherwise,
yes, that's what I mean by a dead scene. When that's the only option that you're hoping on,
that's Australian Counter-Strike.
I know, and I hate to break the news to you, but Australian Counter-Strike is, I'm not going to say dead. I'm not part of it, but it's at the point where North American and Australian Counter-Strike have pretty much the same impact on the international global scene. Actually,
that's
Australia
my point.
Yeah. So we're both having a shit time of it.
No, but it's fine. It's all good.
Sure.
Justin's the best Australian player, so he gets to play in the best possible team he can be in.
Yeah, right? It's always
Twist
nice to have
the best
one
Canadian player.
One team from the region who's really competing, and it's why you still get jacked up about Greyhound at events. I know even when you predict against them, you're really rooting for them.
This is why I want a World Cup now, Jason. I want a World Cup.
Because you want to solve that problem. You want to say, fuck the regions.
Just once a year.
We'll do a World Cup, so everyone gets to root for their region once a year.
Maybe not even... Yeah,
no,
once
not
a year.
Once a year.
Once every 2?
Once every other year.
Once every other year. 2 years, yes.
Because I think it's good for... I think it's good as well to show off talent from that region. And I think Oh, the fucking cops heard it. They don't like that idea.
Dang.
Run for Chad.
Man, no, they're out. I'm out of here. Yeah, but we do and what we do is we get some company that has unlimited money, right, to fund a world championship.
I wonder which company that is.
Yeah, we get them to run a world championship, right, where they fund, right, like it used to be back in the old ESWC, WCG days, right, like we have events run in each place.
Could we do this? Could we start this? The three of us. It could be the Talking Counter World Cup Championship.
Just needs to happen once every 2 years.
It's just the World Cup. It's not the World Cup Championship or the World Championship.
whatever.
But regardless, it needs to be, you know, all the teams, and then, you know, they can show them off. We can have teams come. It'd be great because now we're at the point where every team is basically international.
We need to stop talking about this on the podcast because someone will steal our idea and do it first. So
here's also the other problem to that though, Chad, because I can play devil's advocate to your devil's advococate.
Don't devil's avocado me, mate.
Wait, so you're just making your own point, Jason. You know, two negatives make a positive.
All right. Give me some hope here, Jason.
Well, here's the problem. As long as the major has a qualification system based on regions, that can't fully be true. Because you still have a north. This is also an area where I would criticize this Liquid move is they don't get to play in the north. They don't get to play in the Americas RMR, which I'll remind you, Fluxo qualified through.
Yes, but so
yeah, but they have.
Do we want to? Do we consider Liquid to be, or like Liquid should be? I don't mean the current roster, but Liquid as a brand in Counter-Strike. Do we think that they should be featured as a top 10 Counter-Strike team? Like that's what we'd expect out of their label, top 10.
Yeah.
I would say as an organization, I expect top 10.
Okay, so if we expect them top 10, regardless of which region they're playing in, they should qualify. Will it be more difficult? Fuck yes.
Yeah, man, but come on, Chad. I don't think that's
the
fair.
point.
Like, look at the
but they're happy to make
look
that
at Cloud9.
decision.
I know, but that's why I'm criticizing that decision.
Look at that group. I mean, the groups were also not balanced. Like, I think.
But then they must see a benefit to this, right?
Yeah, but also, Chad, you have to hashtag respect underdog. And you have to give people. You have to give people a chance because if you put if the top 10 best teams in the world are in Europe, and Europe has 12 slots, well, how many other teams will be able to qualify from Europe? No one.
What I'm talking about here, right, is the fact that them as a team have thought this would be the only reason if they're making these choices. That in North America, they do not believe, or even South America for that matter, because they could have picked up a player from that region to keep that core. They don't believe that there is a good player that they can get for a reasonable amount of money with all the factors that we've spoken about, right? Like the fact that to be a good Counter-Strike team, you have to be in Europe. We know that. Essentially, what you want, Jason, is a North American majority team or an American majority team who represent the region and basically spend the majority of their time in Europe so that they're good enough to compete, right? Because that would be the only way that would be possible. We can't.
That would be the dream scenario. Yeah. Well, I mean, what I really want is to have a functional North American scene that can actually foster that talent regionally. But I mean, let's stay in the realm of what's possible.
Yeah, that's a fucking pipe dream.
But for that to happen, there needs to be infrastructure, sort of being put in place that's going to be ready by the time CS2 comes out, because we will have an influx of new players.
But there's already opportunities though, right? Isn't the fact is, and this is something that, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Counter-Strike is available for people to play, and there are opportunities in these regions for people to be able to compete. The thing is, are people going to get handouts worth of money? No, that's not going to happen.
For me, I think it's more, I guess, well, you have cash cups, you have ESCA still, right?
Yeah.
And you have the face it thing. So maybe it's not even like adding more things. It's just promoting the things that exists a little bit more, making sure they're run well, administered well, right? Promoted a little bit better so that people know, okay, I'm going to make an account on Face It. There's going to be other guys there. We can play against each other. Okay, then with the guys there, I can make a team. I can play in ESCA. I can play in Cash Cups. Like, that's enough, for
we just want to direct them.
Yeah. It might be, but also I think the problem with losing a team like an organization like Liquid to an international roster, and by the way, I don't like the decision from this perspective. I think it's probably the right decision for Team Liquid and to make sure they're more European.
You can't tell me, man, they can't get a player who's as good as Rainwaker.
Yeah. I would have liked for them to have gone for like a Brazilian, get like Brazilians to flush it out. I think there was
Cacerado would have been nice.
I think there's also like some kind of, I don't know the rules to like the rosters and the regions for majors like super well, but I think there's like a weird technicality you could do where if you could have like if Liquid could have picked up Flames as an Israeli, he doesn't fall under like the European RMR, so they'd have 2 from Europe, 2 from NA, and an Israeli. so they could go to whichever RMR they wanted. They could have still played in the Americas. I think that loophole exists.
Yeah, but with Flames going to Vitality, that doesn't. That
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
happen anymore.
I know, but like that would have been a really cool play if they could have pulled that one off, if that was ever a possibility.
But a lot of this is being rushed as well, right? We haven't even spoken about that because of this fucking blast roster thing.
Before we get too far away from it,
Yeah,
I want to
there's no
just say, I just want to say one thing, that the big loss of Liquid as like an American team, as like a North American team, is like there's no organization for like young players who are just starting and competing to like aspire to. Like there's not like that, like, oh, if I bust my ass and work hard enough, I can get a contract from like the Americas teams, like a Liquid, like in, a Complexity, those teams, all of them going international is now, the scene doesn't have that kind of like goal organization the way that Europe has.
I guess that I don't know. This is another thing where I lack that perspective because for me it was never that way, right? Like it was about building the best team. It wasn't just about joining like the best team.
Also, another thing is this is now not Team Liquid. This is Team Yakindar. Like Team Liquid.
Bloody hell, Yanko's got a bit of a vendetta here.
No, I don't have vendetta, man. I'm just saying, like, he is a big personality, and now you're giving him the keys of the kingdom, so to speak. So he's the in-game leader. Elige is no longer there, who we know has been a guy who's had like his voice heard or was getting his way sometimes and wouldn't just play along to whatever someone else was saying or wanted the team to go in which direction. NaV is a veteran, and I don't want to say he's like a super passive person, but he's not like, I don't feel like he's mega outspoken either. Right, like, so right now you have Yakindar who's going to have pretty much all the control for that roster, right? Like similar to what Cadian has in Heroic, right? And I'm not a huge fan of that, man. I've said a couple of times on this podcast, I think he crosses that line between confidence and arrogance a little bit, and I think you also look at Cadian in Heroic, he's a much more mature human and has been through a lot already in his career prior to being on Heroic. So I don't have a lot of confidence that Yakindar can be that same heart and soul of the team, to have that same motor as Cadian, for example, has, and still have, a lot of impact individually. I imagine he's not going to change his role tremendously.
But think about the dynamic of this is going to be weird, right? Like that is a key talking point, I think, is the actual dynamic of the team. Like Patsy as an individual, well, we only really know him from his play style, right? We've spoken to him a couple of times, but we wouldn't really be able to tell you what type of personality he's like in the server or while the games are being played. Rainwaker as well, would have only watched him in, with some 500 matches. So what are we taking from that? How is the team?
How many of those have you watched, Chad?
500 games, maybe 2.
Exactly.
Right. So it's like it's something where this is the thing. I imagine there's a lot of factors that go into picking up a player. The roster lock is something that is encouraging, especially these blast teams, to do it very quickly. I think it closes in like 1 or 2 days or something like that.
Why is that even a thing? If you're blast, you want, what's the point?
They'll extend it.
Yeah, I mean,
if a team asks, they'll extend it.
I don't know. I was talking to someone, Jason, and they said to me that they asked about that, and they said, "I will just submit your old roster then."
Yeah, and then they'll change it later.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't get that clause at the end. Like that, that's a nice clause at the end. Hopefully that is the case.
Yeah, I'm just speaking. I'm just assuming as well. I don't actually know if they would, but I can't see a world in which they would be so hardline about that.
It's the reason that it just is like, for me, I just worry why. Because if it's just a logistics point of view to have things booked or whatever, okay, really, if that's the point that we're getting hung up on, okay. But I look at this, it's just partner teams. Like what? Who are we locking away from who? Everyone's in on it. Like what are we doing here? Like why are we restricting? Even more so, it's like, why do we have this for our own sake? Like once upon a time, this stuff used to make sense, but we're not even like we're not national rosters anymore. Everything's international. Players have these contracts which they get locked into because they sign them, and then they're going to get themselves put on a bench with a crazy buyout, and then they have to hope that the market gets to a point where their team is either willing to let them go for less or someone wants to splurge on the bank balance. Like the way that the whole system works right now, it's not in place to build us the best possible Counter-Strike rosters. It's also not in place to nurture scenes like you're talking about, Jason, with North America. Like, that's not the scenario that we're in from either perspective. Which, yeah, when you say when I put it like that, it doesn't seem very healthy, does it?
Yeah, I mean, but what I would add to the whole NA sort of thing would be we need to have one season of Pro League there. Like the full season with teams coming and going, that would help. I think once CS2 starts, like the next season should be there if contractual obligations allow it. I think having 5 weeks of different tier 1 teams being in North America and giving those smaller tier teams at least some practice, maybe you figure out a way to organize something additional, like a sort of a showcase tournament. I don't know, where a couple of top 2, top 3, 4 teams from some of those like cash cups, whatever, they get to play in a tournament against the teams that got eliminated from the group, in Pro League, for example, right? So you give a couple of extra games for the teams that lost in the groups, and you give some experience for the teams that are situated in NA. And I think that with what's already in place, I think it's a good start, if anything.
I wonder if
we're not in a bad spot.
And I think also, sorry. Okay,
I was just gonna say, like, I think it'd be cool. I've kind of I've brought this idea up of like CS2 have like almost like treat it like a draft day or like a combine like the NFL does, of where just throw like one tournament and get like 4 North American teams, 6 North American teams, and just have them just go head to head for a fucking weekend. Just broadcast the whole thing. I don't know if it probably doesn't make any sense, but like it would be, that's where I get scared about with these teams kind of all going international from NA, like all 3 of them at the same time, Complexity, EG, and Liquid all doing it, is kind of like, you would hope that there are plans to kind of try and give the North American scene like a jump start, like the fucking paddles on the chest and
clear.
Yeah, exactly. But like, it doesn't seem like those plans. Like, I haven't heard anything.
All right,
doesn't
what
seem
about
like
this?
those plans are being made.
What about this? It's a conglomerate of North American personalities come together to form a new organization. Jason Moses O'Toole, Eric Flom last name, and
Scrawny, Launders. They're Canadian, but they're in North America.
Shroud.
Yeah,
So why doesn't just Shroud make it?
Shroud? Shroud get in there?
Yeah, but I don't think Shroud always out here talking shit about CS, man. He don't care about that shit. We should get someone who's interested.
Is Complexity making any changes? No,
I don't think so.
We haven't had any.
I think they will. I haven't seen any news about it.
But you think there's changes?
I think there's changes to the extent of where I don't see why you don't change if you're Complexity. Like, this team's kind of hit the ceiling. The team's kind of hit its limit. No.
Well, you'd try and get Elige, but I don't think Elige would go to Complexity.
No, he already turned it down.
Yeah.
So then, who are you getting?
So where would Elige like to go then? Who's going to pick up Elige?
EG.
He could go to depends on the roster at EG.
Well, yeah, he wouldn't go to the EG with automatic breeze, refresh, Neil, and
I mean, you go to EG, or you dip your toes into Valorant if you're Elige, right?
That would be the best for him, I feel like.
He's only 25, man. I think
I do say
he's still young.
The one thing I like about this whole Team Liquid thing is that Elige is not on the roster anymore.
But he still can reinvent himself. I think he needs to be on a different team. Like, I think that he can still reinvent himself as a player. He's only 25. He's still young. Like, he still can be good. You see glimpses of it.
I just think he's 30.
Well, I think that's because we've seen him for so long, right? But
Exactly,
he's still young. So I think that a new team, like a new home, some new influences, a new chance as well. You kind of
a bit of that humble pie as well. A slice of that humble pie wouldn't hurt. I feel like
leave the bags, Yanko. You don't have to take anything. You can move country and leave all the stuff there and just never answer the phone. No one will know.
Yeah,
well, people will know, but just throw the SIM card away. Make sure you're not reachable.
Yep, no credit cards.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I've never mastered that.
Who else is there? That's the thing. Like, for example,
Zorty, he's in the conversation.
Are we talking about who now? EG?
EG.
I don't know. There's so many different ones about EG, man. Like, what is there? Like, what's actually like? So it's what? Electronic, Perfecto, Zorti, Elige, and Automatic. What is that the roster like?
I think Automatic is meant to be one of the pieces they keep, but I don't know.
So
Yeah,
or is Perfecto not in that conversation?
I don't think Perfecto is in that conversation.
By the way, I don't even know where this electronic EG rumor started. I just
cares?
woke
I
up and
fucking love
saw
it
it.
all. I love
I
it
just
all.
saw it. I'm just like, I'm sat here and I'm
Don't
like,
talk about all of it.
I do feel like if NaVi thing is happening and they're not keeping Electronic and Perfecto, they should go somewhere as a duo.
They should go to Cloud9. It would make Cloud9 so good.
Yeah.
Shiro, Axel, Electronic, Perfecto, and then I'd say keep Hobbit. And make
Yeah.
Electronic continue.
I don't know, man.
Well, the only other
Hobbit
thing
is the one
think,
who was like the most, who's been like sort of letting the team down the most when it comes to sort of like fragging in his role and bringing the impact. Like, sure, you
All
can
right,
argue
well-
about the whole style and Nafani and Groove and that whole side of things, but on the server, I don't know. I feel like it's not the same hobnob.
Let me throw this at you then. What about Axel, Shiro, Electronic, Perfecto, Jerry?
Yeah, I can dig that.
I thought you'd be more excited about
I
that.
can- I
That's
can-
why-
I can
that's
dig
why
that,
paused
you know.
for
I
the
like Jerry.
part.
The thing,
I like Jerry a lot.
I think though, I don't even have something again. I feel like I don't know. You know, Nafani and Groove, who has a bigger say? Like I probably feel Groove at this point. You know, I think I wouldn't potentially even mind Nafani staying if you bring a different coach and then change your style, right, and put Groove in a sort of a GM role, right? Like put him a level above, right? Like I think that could be a good move. But yeah, probably at this point, you know, you could bring Jerry in too. Just the thing is, how old is Jerry? Well, he's 25. He's not that old. I thought he was a little bit older.
No, Axel
I
and
did
Shiro
too.
are young.
Yeah, Axel Schindler's super
Electronics
round. You
only
have
got, well,
you have
like-
Shiro in there who does a lot of like mid round calling too. Well, obviously you have Electronic who's super experienced as well. The problem is a little bit of role overlap in that sense with Exile and Electronic.
Do we know if Electronic's going to try and keep in-game leading?
I'd imagine not yet. I feel like he could do it, but
Bro.
I feel like it's too early for him. Similar to like Nico had to do it in phase, right? And I think he did a good job. I think he can be a great in-game leader, actually.
What are
But
the-
it's
what
too
are the
early.
odds?
He's too skilled to start doing it now.
What are the odds that Electronic's game is just ruined after being an in-game leader
No,
for
no,
a year and a half?
zero.
Give me odds.
Zero odds. If anything,
Chad?
you become a better
Chad, give me
player
some odds.
by having to in-game lead.
5%.
Okay,
I'm
so you
not
guys
gonna
are
go high.
very...
I'll tell you.
I think he's too good.
I'll second
I think
that.
he's too good.
I'll say 5%
Sure.
too. But
Oh, okay, here we
if
go. All right, now he's changing
No,
it.
I mean just because you never say 0%, Jason, as you would well know. But
Well, I guess I'm the only not pussy in this channel. But yeah, go on.
But it's you get a broader view of the game from being an in-game leader, right? So then
You
even
consider
when you go
different things.
back to playing, you can sort of get a better feel for timings. Like you understand more what your teammates or your opponents doing on the map means for you in that exact position, in that exact moment. So
Yeah, I agree with that in theory, but I feel like in practice it doesn't always work out that way.
I mean, what happened with Nico?
Well, Nico was an in-game leader for what, like a few months?
More. It was-
6 months? Less
No,
than a year?
It was a year. A year and a little bit, and some other stints for a couple of months. So it was like a full year that he was doing it.
There were some players who got ruined by that, though.
I have to
Like,
think of the players that got ruined by it because my brain isn't
Which
functional
players?
at the moment.
There definitely were players that picked it up, and then that was just it. They weren't able to really come back.
Magisk came back.
Yeah, he did. Well, some of the French players, though, some of the
Yeah,
French players
Shocks
who
and
picked it
MBK
up,
both,
they,
like never got back.
a little bit
Nah,
rockier
I
for
don't
them
think that has
afterwards.
anything to do with the fact that they. picked
There's
up
there's
in-game
more. There's more. My brain's just a little foggy at the moment.
Or maybe there just isn't anymore.
Well, I'll come up with a list. I'm gonna write them down.
You write a list, Jason, and you bring
When
it
they
to
come to
next
me, as
episode.
they come to me, I'm gonna write a list.
But I mean,
You-
Axel, Shiro, Perfecto, and Electronic, that's pretty crazy to think about, having all
Yeah.
those guys on the same team. And I
It
feel
almost
like
really doesn't matter who the
Jack
fifth
is a guy who would make that happen, like who sort of understands that even though that would probably be pricey, it would still be worth it for what you would get.
Yeah, I'm curious, like how much NaVi would be selling. They're obviously huge players, but I don't know. Like, I guess it's how long is left on the contract. There's all of those things that come into this conversation as well.
What about Virtus Pro? Like, sure, James extended.
They're not doing anything, weirdly enough.
James extended contract for 4 years. So is that like now just Norbert is sticking around? It's just like the Outsiders team that won the major?
I think so. Like, there's been no.
That'd be so stupid.
I think they are. I think they're just sticking with it, man. I don't think anything's going on over there.
But
they
so
played a fucking
stupid.
tournament and won it with that team.
But I will say though, because we did criticize. I mean, I did criticize. The FURIA 5-year deals when they happened at the time. And James is 4 years, so pretty similar. The standard is 3 years. But I think I'm fine with James in this situation, right? Like, he's been with this org for a long time. He's the captain of the team. I think if he's feeling comfortable with the org, I think he obviously gets a lot of say in who he plays with and how they play, and probably in the changes like that they potentially end up making. So I think in his situation, that's a okay deal to sign, right?
And you have to assume he got a pretty decent bag considering he's somewhat of a brand all on his
Yeah.
own right,
Yeah.
Like, he's got his YouTube channels doing good. Like, he's just a fun personality to talk about. He's got a lot of conversation. Like, he's valuable to VP, so you'd assume they gave him some good shit.
Yeah, and I think also it's a good segue into the Vitality thing too, and Flames for dupreeh, because who was the team that after they won the major made a player change? It was VP, right? Bringing in Chiron instead of Norbert, and I think
Big Ron.
Well, yeah, and I think this is not the same thing because Flames is more experienced than Chiron was at the time, and I think I think both changes make sense. I think VP just sort of overdid it at the time with picking a player that's too young and too inexperienced, and probably underestimated a little bit of what Norbert brought to the table, especially in those like games against tier 1 teams. He had like a lot of impact for them at the major, right? I think with Norbert, a lot of people are like, well, he's not incredibly skilled, but somehow he ends up getting it done and finds his rounds and finds his impact in games, and Chiron wasn't able to do that. So I think Flames is obviously, I think, a better, just individually skilled, a more individually skilled player than Norbert is. So that's sort of a different change that you're making. And I think it was Bill Walsh or Bill Belichick who said it's like, you want to trade your player, like you want to move on from him like a year or 2 years even before he starts on the decline, because then you can get potentially even a lot of value for him in trades and whatnot. So I think this is one of those changes that if you're Vitality, you don't want to make it, but it's a good change.
Well, he's free. Flames is free as well because his contract had ended with OG.
Yeah, you can't pass that up.
Yeah, but I mean, just from, like for dupreeh and what sort of a player he is, and I think he could definitely play for, 1 more year with them and not be a wait, maybe even a little bit longer than that. But, as you guys have said, it's just like a really good opportunity that you hate that you're doing this, but it really makes sense for you. It's one of those, a business decision.
What about this, Janko? How's this sound, man? dupreeh goes with old mate Stare, joins Astralis with Device, Blame, and Glaive. Then you've got Stare, Blame, Device as your fragging trio. dupreeh in there still doing the same roles. He can fulfill those duties that he has been doing. And Glaive in-game leading, reunited, ready to go. Now he's got 3 of them. Now he has enough to reform the superpowers of the Astralis Star, and they can supercharge that and bring Danish Counter-Strike back into the light.
That's pretty fucking sick. I really like that idea, because also I think if you're doing this and your Vitality, you're not going to make a big fuss about dupreeh's transfer fee. So I think if you have that opportunity, if you're Astralis even if you didn't want to spend any extra money, you just sort of do it. Like I think both Altex and Buzz are too inexperienced. Like even someone like Stair at this point has more experience than them. So if you have that trio of guys back and then, Blame and Stair there instead of Magisk and Zipix, I mean, that can be a pretty good fucking team. And we saw Devices on one.
Dude, Blame has a lot of output, right? I know he has some low impact kills, but over he just always has output consistently as well, it feels like. Now if this Stair guy comes in, I remember watching him in Sprout,
Katowice.
right? Ah?
Yeah, I said Katowice, but yeah.
But I remember watching him play, and he, for an 18-year-old kid, he's definitely a prospect, and these are going to pop up, and he was able to get into some good games. This is something that they're obviously doing, so that's a good pickup in itself. And then you're right, they should just do it, just get it back together, and then
Get the band back together.
Jason, Liquid can die, but Astralis can live. Only one may survive.
Yeah, and we'd all take Liquid any day of the week, right?
Well, there's some news today,
Actually,
Jason.
it's the Astralis redemption arc, isn't it?
They've decided they want to be the good guys again.
Oh, it's the first step taken towards rainbows and redemption.
Do you want to be the breaker of the news, Jason, to the people?
Yeah, I'm sure the audience knows, and I'm sure the audience has been celebrating. Astralis part ways with Casper Fit and
Casper
Hunden.
Shit.
Wow.
Yeah,
Shout
that
out
was
Duncan one time.
pronunciation.
That was
there.
shout out to Duncan's TikTok channel.
Your pronunciation was good, however, Jason. I respected the extra effort.
Been around a lot of Danes in my life,
Okay.
Yeah.
but yeah,
Great-
I'm
great
I think
fucking
we're all
news.
jazzed up for this.
Best news in a long time. For those unaware of who maybe Casper Huit is, he was their director of sports. So basically like a general manager, the guy who's pulling all the strings in terms of player changes, whatever not. He was the genius that was making those decisions, like bringing more players in, like Bubsky, Yugi, or all those guys. And who sort of, it was under his watch that legendary Astralis roster fell apart.
Pulled the ripcord.
Because some players were taking medically because of burnout and mental health exhaustion, and others kept playing with different stand-ins, which was obviously sucky. And I think in that situation, just a comment, I think they should have just let the whole team go on a break, dude. They should have just given them all a couple of months off, say, hey, we need to take care of our players. It's been a long couple of years. They're struggling with this new change of environment. And, in order to preserve this lineup, we're going to take a step back for a couple of months. Give them an extra month on both sides of the player break if you have to. Right. And I think that could have helped that roster from the outside looking in. So he was also the person, when they were bringing different players in, and then the whole Lucky situation and in and out, op, no op, Far League, all of that stuff that you saw post Device going to NIP. He was the main guy for that. And obviously Hunden, the cheating rat from Heroic, who was employed by Astralis while he was still in Heroic and felt like he was doing things. It's just disgusting. It's just such a disgusting, situation, like a number of things that were happening. And I publicly called them out on it on this podcast, on social media. Like, I couldn't understand an organization like Astralis, and with the amount of, accomplishments that they've had, how they could associate themselves with Hunden. So, and a lot of people are saying now, well, why did they even hire him? Like, they got so much shit when it happened, and he was only there for 6 months. Where I can only imagine that it was Casper Huit who was, his biggest advocate, because probably the cunt doesn't have any principles, and he just, has seen or heard that, he's like a good Counter-Strike mind, and that's what their team needs, because, oh yeah, you also fucking lost Zonek because you're incompetent. So because of all of that, he was like, yeah, let's get this guy. And luckily, someone in that organization realized, listen, like, this cunt is incompetent, and this other guy is a fucking cheater and a rat. Why are we having these people on our roster? Just like on our organization. Just get rid of them both and cut ties completely. And sort of, it's like, you know, when your foot, it's got gangrene on it. It's like if you don't cut it off, you're gonna die. Like it's gonna go over into your bloodstream, your body, and you're done. So they've finally decided to cut off a foot, and hopefully this is like the start of Astralis going back. I think now I'm even more horny for what Chad said. You know, bring back dupreeh, bring Stair in, like that roster with, you know, no fucking cloud above their heads, no idiot managing them. I think could actually be a solid contender and definitely a super fucking exciting team to follow.
I don't even.
1 hour, 18 minutes.
That's the only time stamp we'll have.
No, because that one right there, we can clip that. We can clip that, Jason.
That's what you. Yeah, we can do that too.
Take a little bit of a sound.
Yeah, that'll be the teaser. That'll be the teaser for the episode coming out tomorrow. We can make that happen.
Give us a little bish and a bash and a bosh. I was reading this. I was reading the news post on the Astralis.gg website, and at the bottom, old mate fucking Anders, the CEO of Astralis, not the Anders everyone knows, a different Anders. I don't know how to say the name. Horsholt? I'm not sure how you pronounce it. I'm not going to attempt the Danish, but
it's a nice try. Yeah,
it's the O with the line through it. Anyway, we have right here. Where are we at? Anders comments. I would also like to thank Nikolai for his time here. It was not as long as we had hoped, but in continuation of our work going forward, we need another profile to support the head coach. We wish Nikolai all the best. Notes. Oh, wait, what? I thought this was like a quote. Anyway, yeah, that's what old mate's saying.
Notes Horsholt.
Yeah. I thought. Yeah. Anyway, replacement.
That is a very. I'm reading that now. That is a very confusing layout for what should be a quote.
Yeah, anyway.
I think
I feel like an idiot regardless. So they got me there. Good job, Astralis. You made me read something out. Good job. You got me. Thanks, guys.
I think when I think about it, I mean, not that we need to add anything more, but when I think about it, like when you go back to like some of the articles that Richard wrote, like releasing like all the logs from the court case and talking about that relationship between Hunden and Casper, it feels like they were kind of like a little 1-2 punch, you know, like because like the whole time. During that heroic stint,
you're
when
talking about
Hunden's,
like a simple flamey situation.
Yeah, they're in constant contact about where the roster should be headed and in anticipation of this move. So like while Casper's making the decisions, he's like taking a shit ton of advice and taking the opinion of Hunden. So I think Hunden was there very much more for Casper than anything. Is the way I look at it these days.
Yeah.
So when one of them was gone, it was like now that you guys are kind of a packaged group, see you later. You're both gone.
Yeah, interesting, and I think that it's largely been received as a positive thing. I would say.
Who the fuck would see this as a negative thing? A blind person.
Well, I could think of 2 people.
Okay.
And then
nice one.
the people who are affected around them as well. I'm sure there's a few. I just had this pop into my head. I need to know before it pops out.
Sure.
Are you still getting horny if Cloud9 is coach change like you want, Yanko? But Nafany, Shiro, Axel, Hobbit, and then Perfecto. Are you still getting? Is that getting you horny for Cloud9 at all?
I don't know, man. I feel like Hobbit's time on that team has run out.
So the Hobbit's the sticking point.
I feel like Hobbit is 29, bro. Shiro and Exile are what, 21 each? Like
12, I think. Yeah,
your third star should be someone like Electronic.
Yeah, but
I'd still be horny if it's Electronic, Shiro, Exile, Booster, and whoever, Jerry or Nafany.
Fuck you, yeah.
You just made me spit shit out my nose. What the fuck?
Yeah, like something like that. Like I don't care. It's just like I feel like the guy who's playing Hobbit's role needs to be better than what Hobbit has been putting out. And also, if you're making big changes on the team, like as I said, like age is an issue, right? So get someone who you can count on for the next 3-4 years, right? I don't know if you can say that for Hobbit. Unfortunately, okay. I love the guy. He's a great guy, but
Well, there's lots of players to pick from in the region.
Yeah, that region is not lacking for talent, is it? In any
But
way?
it is like we don't know the direction that region really goes in, and as with NaVi, like with the war that's going on, and NaVi no longer taking Russian players, that's also limited like an option for Russian players, right? Like so now they're kind of a bit more intermingling. So it's interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see. Like you have the whole Spirit scenario with the players coming up from the academy. So then you have players like Wonderful who are free. The Patsy situation with Liquid. There's so much fault. Like this is all connected somewhere along the line by these international moves by Liquid and NaVi. It's kind of like brought everything together as one giant orgy.
I mean, it's another good argument to stop doing regional RMRs, do regional qualifiers that feed into like the
Take a
World
shot,
Major.
Jason.
God damn it! I'm doing a format thing. God, shit.
You're the one, dude, the first one who did it.
Oh my god!
But you know,
Jason, wow.
another
I'm a new man.
All right.
one thing that I'm actually like sort of liking the rumor about them is OG. For OG, like the rumor is that they're gonna build around Nexa, Regali, and Fiku. Well, actually, I don't like the Fiku part, but I don't think either Fiku or Neofrag like ended up proving it. I don't know because
Man, have you
Neofrag
ever
I
watched
feel like
one
did
of the
better
games?
during like the Sinners game. What?
Have you ever watched one of the games like with Twitch chat on while OG is playing and
No.
Neofrag misses a kill, right? And Twitch chat are so mean, man. They're the most horrible people in the world. Instead of typing Neofrag, they type no frag, right? And
Okay, I could think of a worse one, but yeah.
like, why are they doing this to the poor guy, man? And it's like when Spinks isn't playing well, they call him Stinks. It's like, dude, what is wrong with these people?
Or when
I think
Dinko
it's
fucks
great.
up a line, we call him Stinko. That's just me. Okay.
Oh, Captain, oh, Captain.
Oh, Captain, oh, Captain.
But I think, you know,
felt
for-
bad about that.
For Regali, it's like he fucking was balling out in Dallas. You know, he was doing great. I think he really sort of proved himself. The Dexter one is a little bit weird, right? Like it's only been a year, and now Nexa is coming back, and he's being transfer listed. And that's the thing. Like he was transfer listed, so I don't know if that's sort of just language, or maybe he already has a destination he's going to, and that's what just
Destination unknown.
so
no,
you know OG is
no.
just getting ahead of it. But I think
Could go to
Nexa,
fours?
Regali, what?
He could go to fours because Zordy's not there.
He could, yeah, but that feels, I don't know. And if Jerry leaves as well,
I feel like he's at his point in his career where he should be aiming higher than fours.
yeah,
Where's he going then? Because none of the big teams are touching him with a 10-foot barge pole, man.
why not?
Because he tweets during matches.
Well, that's just what I've heard. I've heard that teams they don't like what they're
You
finding.
think he has a too big of a personality?
I'm just saying, Yanko, that
Is it the high fives?
maybe the high fives are too powerful. Yeah, that's it.
They did slow down as time went on, you know?
Yeah, because, you know, the players couldn't play anymore.
Less
Hands were
reasons
getting
to high
sl-
five.
Which team would he join though? He wouldn't join Vitality, not Heroic, not FaZe, not G2, not ENCE, not Cloud9, not NaVi.
Maybe
not
EG.
Gamer Legion.
Not
EG.
intense.
But Zordy's going to EG, isn't he?
Easy.
What about Mouse?
I
EG,
think so,
there was
he's going
also
EG.
a rumor EG in talks with Jax.
Yeah, that Jax
Maybe-
is there as
maybe-
well. That's the
yeah.
name we forgot. Yeah, Jax.
Maybe
Jax too.
EG is going from like the blueprint with 3 NA teams to 2 international teams. Maybe that's
That's weird, isn't it?
Which, you know,
EG are actually gonna buy another 6 teams on top of it
to be
and
honest,
start their
I'm
own
not,
EG league.
I'm not sure what the plan
Wait.
is, but that would actually make sense to have 3 teams. If you have 2 international teams with some NA players in there, and then your third team is exclusively NA, right, of talent, and they mostly focus on those smaller tournaments, and then you promote guys from there, yeah, I could see that.
What if Dexter goes to Mouse? Shui, Frozen, JDC, Dexter, Exertion.
To Mouse.
Yeah, Mouse needs an offer. Who's Mouse gonna get?
Dexter.
What do you mean they have Torji?
Fuck off.
Well, Torji's not going anywhere. They're
What?
gonna add
Why not? Get
I think
him out.
Dexter
Set him on the
is
first
gone
plane
and
back to
Shuhei
Budapest.
is joining, and then it's going to be the 4 of the Mouse
Oh,
NXT
come
guys
on, man!
reunited
You need to
alongside
get. You need to do
Dude.
better than Torji if you.
I
Wanna,
think if you're Mouse, this is like almost like sure you might believe in Torres, you might want to play with him, but this is like the dupreeh situation. Do you have an opportunity to get Dexter? That like you do that,
I
right?
think
That makes you an immediately
had
dangerous
plenty
team.
of opportunity to prove himself. Or here's the biggest of them all.
I don't think
You
Torji is
get-
untouchable in any way.
Yeah, you get Shui and Acor.
Who gets Shui and Acor?
Mouse.
Acor
Maybe.
back to back. Look, that'd be cool, but I also hear that it's hard to get players out of Gamer Legion. I
I
know
mean,
that
who's going to be left? Shui is like going to go back to Mouse. Ima, if he goes to Navi, like you have Acor, Isaac, and Kios left.
Yeah, I know.
And that's
Yeah,
not your like
there's-
strongest player. So at that point, you might as well, if someone else, if you get an offer for someone else. you
Yeah,
know.
but I wasn't even considering Gamer Legion's moves. But for them, they wouldn't be able to sell everybody, but they'd probably hope that they could. But then if they can't sell everybody, then they would just, I guess you pick up the pieces of whatever is either like free and is good at the end of the day, and you just piece it together and you go again. Because like they're not a top team or a top org. Like they can't compete in the same way with trying to make these trades. And maybe they don't feel it's like if nobody wants to buy Acor, like why would you just let him go?
I mean, not not letting go for free or anything, but just sort of, if someone wants to buy him out, you let him leave in that sense. Especially since it's, offers, like you have a lot of different opportunities.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the buyouts for a lot of these players are just like crazy money considering the financial environment we find ourselves in right now. Like hearing figures like to buy players in NA or whatever, it's like $500,000 to get a player out of their contract or whatever, right? And this type of money, again, like going into the unknown of CS2, it feels weird. Like, do you want to hit the ground running and swing?
Man,
for
we've
the
been there.
fence?
We've been there for a while though. That's how much buyouts have costed for a long time.
But that's why players aren't getting like put on these teams. Like why if you were, why are you spending that money on this guy when you could spend almost nothing on a guy who gets to play? There's a lot of options and a lot of reasons why I could see these orgs doing these plays.
What about Mantu going to?
Big, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool to me.
But what else is happening at Big? Faven made a tweet saying that he was taking time out because he just became a dad. I don't know if that's true, but I saw the tweet. Surely,
Bro,
he's
has
not
this
trolling.
team has this team had a stable roster in 2 years?
Well, they're meant to be going international. Here we go. As some of you already know, I recently became a father. After talking with Big Clan, we've decided I'll take some time and focus on taking care of my family. Once this period of bonding and adjustment has passed, I'll return to the competitive CS scene. So yeah, we'll see if he returns to the big roster. He's never really been anything too crazy impressive on that team. He's done his job, I think. But there was rumors about Big going international as well. I think if you have Tabson, Crimbo, if you're adding
mate, you can't
Mantu-
go international. You ruined the entire charm of Tabson staying in this organization for the past 6 years.
Yeah, but we've always thought one thing and they've always said another, even though the thing that we thought has been right for Tabson the whole time. So whatever, man.
No, that's now like a career what if.
Yeah, but that's it. These people didn't take the chances when the chance was there, Jason. That's their own fault, right? That's what happens, man. And I think people are saying the window's closed now, bro. No one's out there.
It is. I mean, it is. It is. It's closed. They're not wrong. The people aren't wrong on this one.
Yanko, the people aren't wrong. How often do you hear that? You never hear that.
Never, especially in my country.
The people are always wrong. The people are always dropping the ball. Oh man!
What else
There's
do we
just
have?
So much.
Chad, how have we not talked about your second place finish in the GOAT League?
Because I don't want to talk about it, Jason.
There's still more. There's still one more big news that we sort of need to discuss, which is the whole Brazilian shuffle.
Oh yeah.
And the fallen. The fallen
problem is
sweepstakes.
Yeah, I feel like this is like the pin that like opens the gates. Like you pull it out and the waters flood through of the rest of the Brazilian shuffle because this isn't
But
enough.
the best team that they could build isn't being built.
Yeah, that's true.
And like that is the only thing that really like I look at. And I go,
Bro, if
It's hard to judge, though.
If they end up bringing Fallen and then they leave Art to be like the opera or whatever, or they just leave him there as a player, I'll have like I don't know, like that guy, I don't know, like what he does to still be on that team. Like, if you're already like bringing in a different team game leader, what you value him that much as an individual player, you think he's that good that he can still be on a team that now has Fallen, Yuri, and Xerato? Like, come on, man, just move on from the guy. Like, if anything, Brazil has riflers. Like, they're lacking oppers, but they have riflers. You know, like, if you're FURIA and you're finally moving on from this core, like, shell out. And Fallen doesn't have, you know, a lot of years left, man. 2 years, 3 at the most,
I mean,
right?
I swear at the start of this year, he was saying he was done by the end of 2023.
Yeah, I mean, because obviously he's dissatisfied with the fact that he's playing, you know, success meant that he like qualified for a big tournament. You know, like those are not Fallen's aspirations. He would like to aim much higher than that. And with a roster, you know, with players like Xerato and Yuri, he could do it. Like, we saw a little bit, you know, at Blast finals. You know, they played some really good games, could have made it even into the final. That's why I felt, you know, at Pro League, they lost a couple of silly games. You know, even the last one against Complex, it wasn't really as bad as the result showed. But, you know, then again, they failed more after that. So, yeah, I would just like them to get 2 more riflers that fit in and that you have a team that's, like, ready to go now. Bring Vinny back with Fallen. You know, like, I feel like that would be a good sort of a glue guy. Obviously played with Xerato and Yuri in FURIA before. And, you know, I don't know, one more good rifler. That obviously isn't like super expensive because you're going to have to shell out. You know, Fallen is going to be expensive, probably more so because of his brand. But yeah, so in any case, I think if FURIA keeps heart and then just adds a guy from like the academy, as it was the word that Kawes guy, it's like, come on, now they're doing what Astralis did when Device got back. Like they're leaving him with, who was it at the time? Buzz and Zipix, right? It's like, well, you know.
Yeah, I think that's my problem with like judging it with any kind of finality at the moment, is because like if this is the only move, I'm gonna be so fucking disappointed. If it's just like Fallen coming in and like trying to like keep Safe and Art on the team as well, like it's so epically disappointing with what Brazil can actually provide.
Safe's not staying. Drop and
Drop's already gone. I didn't see anything official about Safe, but I figured Safe and Drop would both be out at a minimum.
Well, if Fallen's coming in, then Safe has to be gone, right? But the thing with this is, like, if Art stays and they can successfully use him as an aggressive rifler to open up areas on the map, and he can play that role and not just feed, right? And he can do it a bit more reined in or with a bit more tact when Fallen needs it. And then I agree with you, Yanka. Bringing in somebody like a Vinny would be perfect, right? That'd be a great little combo deal to bring over. Bang, it's done. You got Vinny back on the team, all good. And I think that's a ready-to-go roster. Cerrato is a good enough player that they should be they should be as good as they were before, if not better. And that's I guess what they're trying to achieve. Is it the dream roster? I don't know. I guess you can make an argument for having like Big Yazira as the in-game leader in the team and then having someone else AWP, but like Yanko said, there's a lack of AWPs. I don't hate it as much as I thought I'd hate it. I think I'm okay with it. I don't like the idea of the academy player as well. But let's see how far they can stretch the money. That's usually one of the biggest factors. But it is so interesting to see Fallen now on like the new biggest, like considering like the way that his career has gone, right? Bringing Brazilian Counter-Strike to the top of CSGO. And then the team that like usurped his team, now he's on it as the in-game leader. Like that's so fucking crazy.
Honestly, I have a lot of faith in Fallen being able to pull it off. I know he's not at the top of his game anymore, but I think Fallen is still capable of making this team better. From everything I saw when he was in Liquid and working with him there, and even just like some eye tests in the game, I still think he's had some games that he's called really good games, even in the current meta, and games obviously where he's had good individual impact. So I'm willing. I like where that could go. I just want more coming.
Yeah, I just find myself with all of these roster changes just a little bit. it all just feels weird, man. It feels so much, but every time I think it's so much, I'm always just like overwhelmed by all the options, all the conversations that are being had. When I first heard about NaVi going international and people were saying the names they were talking about, I was like, there's no way this is real. Like, I didn't even give that like a second thought. It went in one ear, out the other. And then now to see like a report coming out from Dexerto, from fucking Mira about Alexi B and Iman and all this stuff. It's like, what? How are we here? It just, Counter-Strike has never been this international. That's a fact. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right to me.
You think maybe, imagine
I
if
think it's
Navi
so
was going for
Dota.
Kixan instead of Alexi.
It's still, I don't know. I still like.
Still unproven.
No, it's just like going international for me. Like having that change is such I don't know. I always just would associate NaVi because I'm going all the way back to the Edward and Zeus days with the Starix and
two big
Senya.
staples. Two big staples are doing it. It's like a huge changing point with like Liquid and NaVi both blowing up and going international entirely. And just like the scale of the changes, like name the last time a shuffle after a major like actually gutted like this many teams.
Yeah,
like,
who are the
usually it's
teams
like
in the top 10 who aren't changing? Fucking Heroic, FaZe, G2, ENTS. Right?
Yeah.
Like the rest of them are changing. That's
And I mean, that's even more if you go all the way down to like the top 15.
yeah, like
Top 20.
So maybe VP doesn't change. We don't know what's going on there, but FURIA changes, Monty's changing, Astralis. We know Stairs coming in at some point. Fnatic is completely gutted. There's like rumors
Imperial's
about
going to have to change.
someone's talking about Cypher and is it Yimpat joining OG? Like. So
Yeah,
I
I saw that
Cypher could be
somewhere.
leaving into the breach, but that's just one of these fucking Twitter little posts. So, it's so much to keep up with.
I know, there's so many moving pieces.
Isn't it exhausting?
It is.
And all people are doing every day is just having conversations and making decisions on which team they're going to end up on. It's all quite higgledy-piggledy, isn't it? Wow.
Yeah.
Hicklety-picklety.
Yeah, you heard that one before?
This is the first time for me.
Oh, okay. I don't know what it means exactly. I'd probably have to look it up. But yeah, gentlemen, I've come to a bit of a, this point where Jason brought it up. We need to broach it. We need to talk about
We don't
it.
have to.
We have to.
It's
We
just
have to. I want to hear this.
I'm just disappointed with the loss. I'm disappointed in my own performance. Really, really expected better of myself. And all I can do is just say that personally, I'll be holding myself accountable. And thank you everybody for understanding.
How could you lose to Juric?
Yeah, he was actually better than Letney.
Dude,
Like,
he was so much better. It was
Yeah.
the dumbest thing I've
he
ever
was
seen in my
ridiculously
life.
better than Letney. Like
It
he was
because
owning.
like this was his life's,
work.
Work.
Yeah. Yeah, it all come into culmination here. He like I was watching the games
He
when Letney
probably
was
took
playing, and I
a
was
limitless pill or something like that.
Letney wasn't having anywhere near as much impact as this guy. I couldn't fucking believe it. And we're out, it was wild. But yeah, I made sure to try and keep the internet banter filled as possible. I think
You did a good job with that. I appreciate it.
I hope I annoyed some of them
helped
because
us.
that was the plan. The plan was to try and frustrate them, and hopefully I got a little bit in there.
Did you get mind fucked on the veto when you had to play Dust 2?
I
You
didn't.
had to play Train.
Dust 2 was fine. I didn't have an issue with playing like Dust 2. Train bothered me a little bit. It's like we get both of the fucking gimme maps. It's like how much influence do these streamers have, and I'm voting for dog tier maps. Like what the fuck's going on here, man? Playing 2 maps not even in the rotation. And then people are like, yeah, but they've been in the map. It's like, yeah, but what do you think I do with my job? I just watch the professional Counter-Strike players play. I'm keeping up with the way the game's played, not fucking Train and
I haven't
Dust 2.
seen Train in 3 years.
I don't give a fuck how that's fucking played. And they got Oscar on the team, who, like, their team was imbalanced as fuck. Wasn't their streamer was Olaf.
Yeah.
And then they had Shocks and Oscar. It's
Well,
like, what?
What do you mean
the
you had Pimp,
fuck?
dude?
Yeah, but they had Olaf. Do you know who Olaf Meister is, Yanko?
Who?
Wow, man. Don't, man. Come
Bro,
on now.
NVK looked great though.
Yeah,
He
Nathan
was-
was
You had the
Back
brought
best
years.
player at the major.
Yeah, second best.
Oh, yeah, we did
He
have
had the
him.
most impact.
We did have him, yeah. Well, our
Is he
home
any
map was
good, Chad?
Ancient. Yeah, he was
Give
good.
us some first-hand experience. He's calm. What's he like?
Very self-sufficient. Well, actually, I don't know. Like his comms are great. He was very calm. He just would shoot people, and I didn't usually get to see because I'm at spawn on Ancient.
Weren't you dead a lot?
No,
Did you die
because I'm
first all of
setting
the rounds? Like
everybody-
80% of the rounds, you died first.
Yeah, probably on the CT side, I reckon. Maybe more.
I'm just fucking with you.
Maybe more. On the T side, I'm throwing all the util Yanko. I'm doing like insta window, donut smoke, flashes, mollies, B executes.
Yanko, you know Chad in show matches. Imagine him with a little bit more stakes on the line. It was some sweaty shit. He was calling defaults, calling mid-round pauses, rotating back, throwing fakes. This was a legit performance.
Fucking hell.
I had a full Ancient A execute. I could smoke Temple Donut CT on my own. We used it.
Did you get your team? Did you get your team into a server to show off things you wanted to do during the game, or did you stream your POV on like Discord or something and show them how you wanted to play?
No, I just like with Ancient. I know how to play Ancient, so with that's really easier for me to because I play that a lot with the guys when we play Face at Pugs.
Yeah. But you
in
brought the boys into a server at some point as like a true in-game leader, old school in-game leader.
For train in between the maps because none of us knew any util. We all quickly jumped in a server and ran around. Didn't help us at all. Didn't even help us a little bit. We did the outside execute at once, and then we got stuck bottlenecked in main, and we didn't even get to the bomb train and get the bomb down while the smokes were up.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit like, well, okay. Well, there's a.
We have
bit of an
severely
issue.
limited options now that we can't do that.
Yeah, if you can't stick the landing on something like that, you're probably going to have a bit more trouble. Yeah, and then when around like that, I think we still ended up winning it. But then after that, they start playing close main, and it's all fucking train, man. But yeah, it was fun. It was fun, and I'm enjoying playing a lot of Counter-Strike again. I just, I don't like losing, and I don't like playing like a fucking bot. I don't think it's representative of my impact, but hey, that's the stats for you. That's the numbers game, guys.
You'll bounce back stronger.
Yeah,
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Gotta get back in the lab. Get back in there tinkering. IEM Sydney got announced.
They did.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That was great.
Greyhound skit. There's the new location. We have a podcast episode we're going to release on Friday.
Ugh.
With Machine and
I'm gonna get ahead of it and say I'll be even more disliked after the episode. I'm not the most proud of my I don't want to say behavior. Yeah, maybe behavior.
We don't have
Demeanor?
to post it.
Demeanor, like because we already done a podcast earlier in the day. I think it was an
so
NBA.
late.
I think it was a Denver game before this podcast. So I've had a few watching Jokic, and then we're coming in. We're trying to talk about Sydney, and the tone of my voice is you guys will hear soon enough. Felt like I talked way too much in the first half of the podcast. I didn't really like that. It's probably cutting people off a little bit too much. It wasn't a great experience, but compared to having to redo the thing all over again and me just being sort of getting hated on a little bit more, I think that's the best way to go about it.
Was it at
Just
least
publish the
funny
thing.
in parts when you listened back to it? Was there bits that made you laugh?
I mean, yeah, of course. There was bits that made me laugh, but it just every time I speak, I'm like, man, you can really tell I'm fucking drunk as fuck. I'm not exactly slurring, but and I'm taking so long to tell a story or make a point. That's probably what I hated the most. It's 3 or 4 minutes of me talking. I could get it done in a minute, if I just got to it. But at some point, I did feel or maybe that was just, I was imagining things, but I did feel like no one wants to talk. So that's why I was sort of trying to,
You're hard to interrupt when you're drunk. You just keep going. There's no downtime.
Jason said 7 sentences for the whole podcast. It's really bad. I'm sorry, guys. I apologize.
Jason spoke about his shoe cleaning. And
Alex spoke about my shoe cleaning.
And the amount of callbacks to that was the funniest thing. He had 3 or 4 different callbacks to the shoe cleaning throughout the podcast, and every time it was just hilarious.
So yeah,
but yeah,
I did tone down on my
podcast.
drinking sins. So
That podcast to reminisce on the good times we've had at all the IEM Australias over the years. So that'll be a fun listen.
Yeah, so the prospect of going back is quite nice. It's a good time of year to be going. I believe it's October or something, so the weather should be.
It's the same as if in May, no?
Yeah, it should be starting. Going into spring. So spring's always a nicer time, right? It's like October, November, spring, December is when summer starts in Australia, I believe. Is that how the seasons work? Southern Hemisphere.
I don't know, man. You're
Hemisphere?
from the southern hemisphere.
Well, yeah, I think summer traditionally starts in December, and then it's January, February, and then March, April, May, autumn or fall, depending on which part of the world that you're from. However, these could have changed. The seasons changed, so do the planets. We once had Pluto, and now it's no more. Rest in peace, Pluto.
It's true. Pluto's no longer a planet.
If planets can't be stable, what can be? Nothing really. I want to play more Counter-Strike.
Yeah? Have you enjoyed CS2?
I'll be honest, I haven't really leapt into the updates. I saw the video they put out the other day with the comparison
jiggle
between
peeking?
which is nice. It is good that movement is a focus. It means that they are acknowledging that there is a difference in the way it feels. So I think that is a giga positive. In terms of other aspects, I haven't investigated too far. I see that the updates are they're coming a little bit more frequently now than they were previously. It's not such a drought anymore. So that's cool. And I don't know. Have you played any Jason? You'd be so busy.
I have been busy. Yeah, I somehow managed. My break just started today.
Oh, okay.
I somehow managed to book like 7 of the last 8 weeks of work, or 6 of the last 7.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were casting.
Since the podcast we did in London, where I was on like 2 hours of sleep, I've had like 4 days off where there's been no work or no travel.
Why have you done that to yourself?
I don't know. It just kind of happened. It just kind of occurred.
Okay. Well, interesting.
But yeah, I've been exhausted. But I've played a little bit. I played a couple just solo matchmaking experience CS2 when I got home. So I've been doing that. I do want to play more CS as the break goes on. But yeah, it's just been about time because I was casting the GOAT League that you were playing in for like 7 hours.
It went for a while. It did go for
it was
for quite a while.
6 days long.
Yeah. Well, it ended on a fucking Tuesday, which is quite unusual.
I know
it was end on a Tuesday.
It was very weird. Jane got home and she was like, "Wait, you're working tomorrow?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know. It's strange. Tuesday for a grand finals."
Normally off days. It's like like a bartender. You work on the Saturday, Sunday. You have the Monday off, but wasn't the case with us.
Not anymore.
No. All right, gentlemen. Well, we're back in the swing of things. What do we want to do in the coming weeks with shows then? Because we spoke about doing one early next week. We're going to release the Sydney one that I just mentioned on Friday. If we do one, did we say Tuesday next week?
Yeah, that's what we said.
Okay,
Tuesday next week.
And then, I guess the next video one we'll be doing will probably be around Cologne. So that's going to be some time away.
A month from now.
Yes, and we should look to get a couple of guests on. Maybe we could see what a Henry G's up to. Maybe we could bring Rushley in for a segment again. I have been.
It's
missing
been a while
Rush.
since we had the anime segment.
Yeah, or you want get animated to come back?
I think he told me in Dallas that he actually had another. I think he said like a bathroom toilet related question.
Oh, okay. All right.
That he wanted to pose to the podcast. So
we do like toilet questions here. One of our favorites.
I've had 2 really good ones over the year.
Yeah, he does come with gold, doesn't he? He comes all the. Mate,
we're coming up to the
fucking crazy.
We're coming up to the.
Mate, these fucking scooters and shit. It sounded like I was getting attacked by a bee.
We're coming up to the 1 year mark of the podcast, aren't we?
I have that in my calendar.
Oh, really?
Ooh, it was during the player break last year, wasn't it? Towards the end of it?
Yeah.
What was the first episode we did? What date was it?
Give me a sec. I know what date it was. Wait, where is it?
July, I imagine? Or was it late June? I guess it would have been July. I don't remember it at all. Yeah, that's not something that you guys have kept the anniversary. August, okay.
The anniversary is 3rd of August.
Okay, well, we'll have done over 50.
It's a Thursday.
Oh, okay. Well,
that's during Cologne.
The player break is what I had in my head.
That's actually during the off day in Cologne before the playoffs.
Oh, that's quite nice.
So
Well, we can
what
do
are
an
we
episode.
gonna do?
Proud live.
Well, we haven't
proud
made the
episode
jock
live.
straps yet.
Yeah, we could make the jock straps. You want me to get into that?
Yeah.
I can start looking into it.
And if they do jock straps, they probably do thongs too. You know, to be fair.
How are we putting a logo on a thong? Where's the material that we're putting, like on the front?
Right on the.
It has to be on the front. There's only one
Jesus.
fabric panel.
Yeah, or 3 heads.
Our 3 head. What are we, like a dragon?
No, the thing.
Could turn them into booty shorts.
the logo that we have. You know.
Oh, the banner on the Twitter.
Yeah, that, but just maybe a little bit different shapes so it fits the piece of underwear.
Okay, well, Jason.
We're gonna start with jock straps.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
Yeah,
We
put
know
that
we're
in your
working with
calendar.
them.
Take a couple of
Yeah.
days off.
All right.
Jason, you've earned them, you know,
Thank you.
and then
I don't get any.
then go
I have,
back to
I have
work.
work I need to do tonight and tomorrow, but one
Oh.
day I will get a day off.
Oh, okay. Well, that's nice. Well, we'll give you some time off now. Let's shut her down, and we'll upload this episode, and we'll see everyone next time.
Cool.
Peace.
Bye.